go. It'll let me record to the cloud. Okay. Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Caitlin Tomlinson, and I am on the WAFLT board and a member at large there, but I also serve as the clock hour chair. And today I am being the behind the scenes Zoom guru here. So thank you so much. We're super excited to have you guys join us for our very first in our series of WAFLT webinars. And we're just going to ask that you have some patience with us with our technology. We just upgraded our Zoom account and everything so that we would be able to host as many people as showed interest. So there might be some new things that we're working through this time. So thanks again for joining us and for your patience. I have the pleasure of introducing Perez. Perez-Granville is the World Language Curriculum Lead at Belleville School District currently. She's a former Teacher of the Year from Iowa, and she's taught all grade levels on both coasts. She's a former state supervisor at OSPI and is the current editor of The Lingo, and she was one of 28 teachers nationwide that ACTFL filmed for its National Standards Project. And today her session is called Beyond CI, and I, for one, am super excited to get to be here today. I will be on the chat if you have questions that I can answer about the Zoom structure. And at the very end of the session today is when we will go over how to get the clock hours if you are a member. So if you have questions about clock hours, please hold those till the end. So without further ado, Paris.
Yes, hi, thank you. So I will be sharing my screen today. So I hope you can see my screen here. I'm going to start a live lesson, and basically I'm going to put the link in the chat. So you're going to be able to interact a little bit more with me in this, with this format. So I'm going to copy the link and then I'll put it in the chat. And if you can go to the chat, where's the chat window? Oh, there it is. If you can go to the chat and just click on this link, it will take you to the Nearpod. So in the chat, which you should be able to see, be able to open up on the little speech bubble icon, you can use to log on to the Nearpod. So I see 2 people are already on, right? I mean, we've got 5 people already on. This is great. I appreciate a lot that you're using your actual names. If we had actual students, they often don't like to use their real names, right? So you would have to set that expectation that they're going to use their real names. The nice thing about this way of logging on is that it doesn't require a student account. So the student accounts can be private, and so we don't have to worry about student data sharing agreement. So we've got 45 people that have moved over from Zoom. That's great. If you notice up here in the corner, after you move on from the initial link, people can still join while you're presenting. So that then allows us to, kids who come in late, they can just join. So today, we're talking about beyond comprehensible input because a lot of us use so many interactive activities when we're presenting vocabulary that isn't in the students' brains yet. And we do all sorts of interaction with the kids. And the challenge is, of course, that how do we do that remotely? And I know my teachers struggled so much with this. And the teachers I work with about 62 secondary teachers and then also elementary teachers. And I would say they were jumping through hoops to do this. And one I noticed, Gwen Guillain, she's on this meeting and she allowed me to participate in her class. So I'm very thankful to them. As we move forward though, I have a few invitations for you all. I understand that we're coming from very different contexts, and trust me, I am well aware that Bellevue is a special case, right? I mean, Bellevue is, you know, Bellevue's Bellevue, and not everybody has student one-to-one devices. Not everybody, you know, has access to the same technology. So I understand that. So I am going to invite you to customize it. Just a note, this is being recorded because we had some people who wanted to see it, but they're in a different time zone. And so they're wanting us to share the recording. So we are recording it for the benefit of members who have to do something else at this time. There is going to be a question and answer time. Feel free though to put any questions in the chat, and Caitlin will moderate that. Also, the other thing is that I have provided a bunch of resources for you, and I've assembled them on all one web page, but during the presentation, I'm going to kind of drop them in as you need them. All right. About WAFLT, I'm sure many teachers in Washington, they know about WAFLT. WAFLT is the Washington Association for Language Teaching. But one thing I wanted to point out is a lot of the things that WAFLT does for you, and some of them are kind of behind the scenes. So we're very thankful to WAFLT for sponsoring this webinar so that it can be free, so that we can support the maximum amount of our colleagues. And so we're very thankful to WAFLT for that. That's, I don't know if you recognize her, that's Gisela, one of our cherished colleagues from Spokane. So what does WAFLT do for us exactly? Well, it allows us to, WAFLT offers a lot of professional development, a lot, in the form of webinars, in the form of spring regionals, in the form of the conference every year. And I'm actually the conference chair for next fall. And I can tell you that on Friday, we're planning on what the fall conference is going to look like, working in 100% remote context. So, and we are going to try to provide things that WAFLT does best for our members. I think the biggest thing is the networking. That WAFLT allows us to do networking well. And so because of that, in the fall, we will definitely we'll include networking opportunities. And then finally, advocacy. We have a new state supervisor of world languages at OSBI, and the WAFLT board has already met with her. She started July 1st, and we have already met with her to bring forward some priorities for her and help her be successful. So it's kind of a two-way street. So we're kind of your voice at the state level. All right, so I'm really interested in learning more about you, and I know we're a really big group. So we have our first poll. Go ahead, and the question is, what languages do you teach? When I flip to the next slide on your Nearpod screen, that if you logged on, the 63 of you who are logged on, if you're logged on to Nearpod, you're going to be able to answer this question. If you weren't able to log on to the Nearpod, you can put the answer in the Zoom chat. So you have two options for answering this poll. So go ahead and type in, what languages do you teach on the poll?
Hi, good morning, Perez. The poll is not showing up for me, and I am logged in.
I see a few people being able to log in. I have 7 responses. Maybe refresh the page. This is Anita, right? I recognize your voice.
Yes, sorry.
Do you see it now?
It's just a box, Paris, that you have to type. It's not a poll. It's just a box.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. So you just type in. So I see, interesting. So I have Andrew Bennett, who teaches Latin and Italian. It's really interesting. Some people, Lynn, I see Lynn teaches Chinese. Rose teaches French. Gwen teaches French. Oh, Octavia Lee teaches Chinese. Wow, Jeremy Tabb teaches French. That's awesome. Let's see what else. Oh, we've got Alicia Holmquist, who teaches Deutsche, German. Great. Very interesting. Oh, wow. And then we have Michelle. This is really interesting. She supports Russian, Romanian, and many other languages. So we have a nice variety of languages. I see some of you weren't able to answer the poll yet. Are you having troubles, or is there anything I can troubleshoot for you on this?
They might have the same trouble I had, which is I was looking at your screen, how you're sharing it via Zoom. I wasn't in my Nearpod. So just FYI, guys, if you're on Zoom, you should be on the Nearpod page, and then you can answer.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much. Yeah, that is the confusing part, is that, I'm sharing my screen, so you're seeing what the teacher would see, but for you to interact, you need to be flipped over to the Nearpod.
And I also want to clarify that we are asking you to enter in these answers in the Nearpod, in a different tab in your browser or on a different device, not just in the chat here. Although I do like to be able to see what everyone teaches.
We're going to move forward with the next question, and that is like, how are you feeling today? Where are you at? I don't know about you, but these last few months, my emotions have been all over the place. And thanks, Anita, for texting me that we're going to be 100% remote next fall. She did this like 5 seconds before I started to present. So that's bringing up a lot of emotions. So go ahead and this is an actual poll. So you should see on the Nearpod, in the Nearpod tab on your browser, some poll of how you're feeling and an energy level today. Okay, it's very interesting. Yeah, this is very interesting, what's coming in. By the way, on these polls, you can set a timer. You don't have to, though. You can just wait and see how it goes. So I'm going to share the poll results of how people are doing. It looks like most people have kind of medium energy today, and it is the summer after all, so you guys are obviously the amazing, stellar people giving up your summer for a webinar. All right, so one thing that I really like for us not to forget, we cannot forget this, is that we are doing the impossible here. You guys are doing the impossible every day teaching world language. You already were doing the impossible before we all got sent home. And now you're doing like the super impossible. So I don't want us to forget that. And a part of that is you granting yourself some grace when you're doing this. And we're learning this together with the students as we experiment with this. All right, so the objectives for today, I just want to keep these in mind. So one is the context is in both synchronous and asynchronous learning contexts, because even if you have live teaching, you always have kids that cannot participate while you're teaching. Or in the case of many teachers with small children, they can't even present synchronously because they've got, all sorts of little kids running around. And everybody, we just have to really elevate equity in our context, because if a high school student has a bunch of little siblings, I mean, they're probably going to have to watch those siblings while their parents are working. So in both contexts. So the idea is, can we come up with a solution that works in both synchronous and asynchronous contests? Can we come up with something like that? And we're going to explore that today. So here's the can-do statements. Participants will explore the possibilities for comprehensible input in those two contexts. Okay, so we're going to explore the possibilities. What I mean by that is this presentation is a 60,000 foot level presentation. I am not going to get into the weeds of the tech on this. And if you want a follow-up on some kind of specific tech, I'm sure I know people that would do even a much better job than I would, some of the people on this webinar, but we could definitely follow up with the details. This is to just see the possibilities, okay? Just what can we do? What is the possible? What's not possible? And the idea is that you'll be able to use one or two input strategies, and my hope is that it's technology agnostic. So that you can use it for almost any input strategy. There's at least two options, and for many of them, there's multiple options. And then a really important part that certainly came up for us this spring was that we need to learn at least one strategy for increasing student engagement, because what I was hearing from my teachers is the kids were afraid to turn on the cameras. They were very shy in that context when they weren't in the classroom, that the teachers were really struggling. And I'm sure you guys have had experiences with this. My hope is that as we open up this conversation, we can elevate some of your voices so you can contribute what your experience was for that. But if we can just have one strategy for increasing student engagement. All right, so now what I'd like to know are, what are your priorities looking at those three? Which one of those is going to be like most important to you today? So that I can then adjust how much time I allocate to each one of those. So go ahead, and which of those strategies are most important to you? So you should be in your Nearpod screen, not seeing my teacher screen on the Zoom, but in the Nearpod screen. And the idea is you'll choose which one of these is most important to you today. I put the link into the Nearpod again in the Zoom so you can find it. And let's give the poll another 10 seconds. All right, so I will share the results. Will somebody unmute and tell me if they can see the poll results?
Can see it.
Okay, that's great. And then will somebody tell me what the blue is? Because all I see is participants will.
That's all we see as well.
Okay.
We can't see the whole ending. So it was hard to make a selection.
Oh gosh, okay, thanks for that feedback. So yeah, no wonder it was hard.
Sorry, Paris, I'm on the tab for Nearpod and I can see the whole thing. So the blue is participants will explore the possibilities for comprehensible input in synchronous and asynchronous context. The, what is that? Aqua is participants will be able to deploy 2 or 3 input strategies in synchronous and asynchronous contexts. And you have the bright green is learn one strategy for increasing student engagement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. And I will know to put these, make these shorter, because I think because you can use Nearpod on like a phone device. So in theory, I don't know how it shows up on all those devices though. All right, so it's interesting though, because they're kind of equally, it looks like the most is the comprehensible input strategies, but they're pretty equally distributed. Okay, so I don't want to say, I'm not gonna say that much about the tech, but the idea is that I know I'm using Nearpod to present it, but many of the examples will not be Nearpod. I hope this doesn't get too meta, but the idea is that this should be tech agnostic, because I don't know what your school district is going to provide you. I don't know what they're going to force you to use. My district is super strict about student data. And so I'm trying to equip you to make choices about that no matter what the tech is. So to that end, I have, basically I have a handout for you that you can view. If you click on the PDF, you should be able to view it. And then I'll put the link to the handout. I'll put the link to the handout in the Zoom chat so you can get to it both ways. So here's the strategies we're going to go over. I've given you highlights. This is just a summary of what we're going to go over. basically. So that is like the whole summary of what we're going to go over. So you can reference that. The idea is that you don't have to take a lot of notes. I've already assembled this for you, and you can refer back to it to see how to use it. The only thing you need to know that's not really explained there is the double check marks means that this tech does it well. It's like it's the highlight of the tech. That's where the tech shines, when there's a double check mark. When it's a single check mark, it can do it, but it doesn't initially shine in that context. So that's what's going on there. All right. So I have a short video that kind of summarizes what, why I call this beyond comprehensible input is because we've all come, many of us are used to the term comprehensible input, and it's shorthand for a bunch of stuff. But unfortunately, outside of our field, it's a little bit of an opaque term. So when working with students and families, when working with teachers, I like to emphasize the interactive part of it and the understanding part of it. So I have this short video that kind of summarizes the 4 key pieces to using interactive understanding, which is just basically a rebranded version of comprehensible input, and the 4 strategies that we use. So let's just, and it's a very short video, so I'm going to play it on all devices. Here we go.
MIU4, Mission Interactive Understanding. Teacher Tony has repeated the vocabulary 10 times. The students still don't remember it. Un stylo. Un stylo. Un stylo jaune. De quelle couleur est le stylo?
Is he colorblind?
Is getting language into students' heads like throwing jello at a tree? This is a job for the MIU4, Mission Interactive Understanding. Agent understanding can bend time, slowing down sentences and sparking connections between sounds and meaning. Agent interaction, lightning fast, grabbing onto language and interacting with it every 30 seconds. Agent Gizmo, equipping students with tools to talk before they can produce language independently. The ringleader, Major Story, weaves a compelling narrative that mesmerizes the students to their very core. Together, they can save Teacher Tony's class. Agent Understanding breaks up language so that students have time processing incoming sounds and chunks of language for meaning without becoming overwhelmed. Agent Interaction asks students to interact with words and phrases to solidify the meaning and let the teacher know who might be missing the meaning. Agent Gizmo gives students the language tools that they need to respond with ease. Major Story uses charm, wit, and compelling narratives to hook students on language. Together, the team at MIU4 equips students to get language into the brain. Join with the Interactive Understanding team. Your students will take over the world in no time. They won't even realize that they are learning. MIU4, Mission Interactive Understanding.
So that's a lot for us to do in a remote context. Having kids interact with language every 30 seconds, super hard. Storytelling, breaking up language in chunks of meaning. We can use facial expressions from the kids to see they're not understanding, you know, if we speak too fast. Those are all really challenging things to do in the context of remote. Basically, I do have a strategies handout here that I will also put the link in the Zoom chat. Basically, the strategies handout window, when you click on that, you can see it just summarizes it for you so that you get an idea, you know, just to help you out, to reference it. And I kept it on just basically just a 1-pager, or a 2-pager, so that it's easy to reference. So I have to get back to the chat window. Chat. Whoa. Here we go. All right, so if we keep thinking about that in that context, I just have chosen 7 strategies that I normally use in my classroom in person that were appearing to be a challenge remotely. One is the question ladder. TPRS, they call the question ladder circling. And the idea is that you basically ask questions of varying difficulty. So for instance, here you have the nonverbal, just asking them to show you or ask them to say a name of a kid in class. So it'd be something like, oh, look, we all have different colored folders today. So who has a red folder? Oh, you know, Kwame has a red folder, right? So those don't require kids to produce language, up to the yes and no, giving them choices. Is it this or that? Is it open-ended? So, and then open-ended like, you know, what does Jessica like? So using the question ladder, unfortunately, this is a little bit hard to replicate, and I can't say that one piece of tech does a better job than the other. However, there is definitely, you know, we can use something like GimKit, something like Quizlet, which I imagine you guys have all used Quizlet. Can you guys, I think everybody's used Quizlet or Quizlet Live or Kahoot. You can actually turn those questions into a series of escalating questions. So let me show you what that looks like. Well, I just used GimKit because I hadn't and I wanted to. So these questions, basically I will drop the link in the chat and then you can play it for a while. Okay. Alrighty, so this one is, I'll drop the link in the chat and then the code. Sorry to make you jump between the Zoom and the code, but that's because I don't want to do it all in Nearpod. Oh, I'm not doing it. Okay, everyone, so gimkit.com, and then there's the code. So if you can go to gimkit.com in another browser tab and put that code in, we can start the game. The nice thing is that, oh, there I see Lisa. Hi, Lisa, you're there.
If you click on the GimKit from your slide in Nearpod, it takes us directly there and we don't even need the code.
Oh, thanks, Gwen. I appreciate it. Again, you could definitely do this in Nearpod, but I just thought it'd be fun to try a different tech so we don't get stuck on that tech. Yeah, okay. So if you just want to be, what you can do is if you just want to watch this happen, you can flip over to the Zoom screen share and then you can see what it looks like for the teacher. Okay. So I'm up to 20 players because I am well aware that every time I switch technologies, I'm like losing people. What's very interesting when I saw Gwen's class is she was very skillful at sort of shepherding the kids between technologies, between Teams and Nearpod. So she definitely has a lot to share with us on that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the game because I just want you to see what I mean by this. So basically, this is at your own pace, and you'll see that the type of questions are simply, it's a variety of yes, no questions, very simple vocabulary, but it allows kids to go at their own pace as they do the vocabulary. It's also gamified because kids earn money that they can then spend on like backgrounds and like avatar stuff. So it definitely has the stickiness that anything gamified has. It can be really, you know, You don't have to take a lot of time doing this, but it really, I feel like it really helps raise the interactive level, because there's something for each and every kid to do every second of it. So that's great. Yeah, this is great. This is great. Yes, I see Lisa has the lead. Okay, okay. The nice thing about this is that it's self-paced, whereas with the Nearpod, you may have noticed, I noticed some in the chat, people are saying, oh, I'm stuck on that page. And it's true. I, as the presenter in Nearpod, control what page of the slide you can look at. You cannot advance. So it's a different approach than something like GimKit, which is self-paced, where the kids get to go in and do it at their own pace. All right, so I'm gonna exit the GimKit game. Oh, wow, so I see Vicki Broden was third. Michelle, you were second, and Jenna Harvey was first place. Wow, wow, you guys are impressive. $73. So that does definitely, you know, I guess, so one thing you see about Nearpod, and thanks Gwen for reminding me of this, is you can embed a web page into the Nearpod so that it's easier to get people between websites. All right, so why would I do this vocabulary? Obviously, I'm leading the vocabulary up to something to combine it with personal stories. So another strategy that we do all the time with when we're trying to get vocabulary into kids' brains is personal stories with interaction. And when I'm doing this, there's a couple different ways to approach this. You could just, like me at home, I could have a personal whiteboard and I could draw my story here for you, you know, or like on a, or I could just do it on like a piece of paper, right? However, so that is great for telling the story, but it's a little less interactive than having every kid interact with the story. So there's a couple different approaches. You can have them draw the whole story, but I took a different approach with this because I thought you might not have seen this approach. Okay, so in this approach, the story, I chose to have Anita, who's one of my class, she's in the class with us. So I made this story about her. So she's like one of my students and I know she's gonna be in class. I just clipped her, I clipped her photo off the web. Of course, Anita's all over the web because she ran for the school board in Lake Washington. So it's easy to get her picture off the web. But you can take the pictures of your students. You can take the pictures of your students in from your student information system. All right, so the way this works is Anita is traveling this summer virtually. It'll be a staycation. So if I were trying to teach in English the word staycation, you know, we would have gone over the vocab. Now I'm checking for their understanding. I'm gonna start this activity. You're gonna draw Anita's setting behind her, okay? All right, so get ready to draw Anita traveling this summer virtually. You can draw with your mouse. You can draw with your finger if you have a touch screen. You can draw, you know, so what would you draw for Anita? Wow, okay, that's good. So draw Anita going on her virtual travels this summer. Oh, wow. This is great, okay. Wow. So there's Sandra's drawing. I like it, I like it. Neil? Yeah. Oh, I had it, yes. Wow, Karen gave her, Karen gave Anita like fairy wings. I like it. There, Jane has her out the ocean. That's great. Hans has her in her with her house. All right. Let's move on to the next part of the story. Okay. Anita is going shopping in her kitchen. So there she goes. She's shopping in her kitchen. So what would it look like, her shopping in her kitchen? So here we're taking the previous isolated vocabulary from just the vocabulary piece, the question ladder, and now we're going to apply it in context. There she is. Okay. Wow. Yes. Here we go. Lisa has her with an apple in her kitchen. Wow, Cheryl is an artist. See that fridge and the frying pan? So, yeah. All right, and then one more example. What else does she love? She loves camping in her bathtub. Wow, there's some very interesting pictures. Amy is actually pasted in a picture from, I see that some of you found out you can paste in pictures from the web. I like it. Okay, Gwen has her camping there. There she's camping. I'm not sure which part is the bathtub, but pretty nifty. And then here's Amy's drawing. I like it. She's got the rubber ducky there, and there's her tent in the bathtub. So that's really easy to see. And Amy's drawing gives a really good example because, you know, Amy's, you know, this is not a piece of artwork, but she clearly showed the meaning that she understood. So that's an example of personal stories. And I would, depending on your comfort level, obviously if your student has some kind of, you know, restriction on sharing their image, don't do it. And you might talk to the student beforehand, which I did not do with Anita. Sorry, Anita. Another strategy that we use a lot is whiteboards. And I actually use this not just for like drawing stories, but for getting them to write responses. And what I mean by that is like, I'll answer an open-ended question that could have multiple responses. And if I'm focusing on them be able to write, if it's novice, you know, phrases or words, if it's intermediate, I want them to write a sentence for me. Then they all hold up the whiteboard, and I really like it because I can quickly go through, like I'm able to like go through and and show a whiteboard to the rest of the class. If a kid is completely lost, I can help them, or I can ask their seatmate to the person sitting next to them to then help them make their sentence better. So that is, again, another challenging thing in this context. And then the other piece is cultural stories. Like what do we do for cultural stories, which would require a huge amount of visual support that we have to give to the students. So there's a variety of approaches. I could use the same type of storytelling with the draw it that I did with the personal story, but with the cultural story, there's a couple different things that we might think about. So here's one thing. This Nearpod and some of the other services have this too. Allow you to do, if you click on this, this is a 360-degree, it's basically a virtual reality 360-degree image of Toledo when they're taking the procession of the relics to the Toledo Cathedral. And if I wanted to talk about this, I could, show this and talk about this with the students. The students, if they're watching a Nearpod on their phone, they can actually, and have like a piece of cardboard, they can put their phone on and see this in 3D if they want to, depending on, or they can just scroll around. Like basically you just click on this image and scroll around and you can look up. Oh, I see it's blue sky. Look at that interesting lantern there. So allows us to do a virtual field trip, if you would, to someplace else. And right now, seeing all these people close together, it actually, in a way, like makes me, hungry for a time when we could be together again. So it's a good option for that. There's many other options for the personal stories. In this particular one, this is a story that we use in Spanish too. Is actually part of our assessment. And what we're asking, what we ask the kids to do, you don't have to do this one, but basically we're asking them to highlight, connection words, sophisticated vocabulary, and cultural details. So instead of a picture that they're drawing over, they would be like circling the actual text. So the text is an image, but I'm actually asking the kids to interact with the text. To circle it, to do all that. So that forces them into because part of the other part of comprehensible input is reading. Reading's the other comprehensible input. So this then allows them to go through this and mine the text for then future writing. I saw a great presentation on the National Foreign Language Resource Center yesterday, which I can send you the link to it. It was really great how she talked about, she uses the reading to mine that text then for them to write from. So moving from reading to writing, that was great. That's not the focus of this presentation today, but I just, getting kids to interact with text, I feel like this is a superior solution to the classroom, because when I give kids a piece of paper and ask them to circle stuff, like I don't know if they're just copying the person next to them or not. I mean, in this particular context, they're interacting with it independently. I can get a kind of a view of what's going on with this. All right, I'm going to move on from that since that's in Spanish and not everybody speaks Spanish. So I want to do just a quick check-in. So I've got a 2-question survey. Just I want to check on my, where I'm at. All right, so this is, if this is a collaboration board, so when you posted this, you get to, by posting to it, then we can see each other's. Are you able to post to the board? Oh, I have to approve them. Okay. So I'm curating this. This is, so I have to approve them one by one, and good questions. Great, great. And I guess I have to approve them because, students are not always appropriate, right? Oh man, I love that HD hug. I love it. Yes, yes. Ah, these are great. So now once these posts are up, you can then click on the heart if you like another student's post. You can definitely click on it to see, if you like it or you want to react to it. The other thing that you may not have noticed is that these could have been audio. Nearpod recently added audio to it. So instead of typing, you could request that they record their voices. And as you can imagine, I mean, this is on comprehensible input, but if you were doing like output, this would be a gold mine because it would allow you students then to react to each other. So So what I'm seeing as I approve these and I read them all was that I'm going pretty fast. And so I definitely feel that too. So what I would like us to do is keep in mind, I'm going to make a request of you. If you can write down on a piece of paper the questions, like the more information you're going to want after this, since this is a 60,000 foot level, like what you would like for follow-up, or alternatively, like what kind of support WAFLT could provide you, like if you wanted like coaching, or you wanted, you know, somebody to help you, like be your co-pilot with your first Nearpod that you did, or anything that you would want. If you could just let us know, that will guide me as we move forward. And I would say, yes, good point, Michelle. This is a downside of using Nearpod, which presenting from PowerPoint and Google Slides is much better, because I could turn on subtitles, like live captioning for those two solutions, and Nearpod does not have that yet. And so that is definitely a drawback to this, because I feel like for people, for me, I don't hear that well, and if I'm trying to think about things, it really helps me to see the closed captioning. So if you use PowerPoint and you use Google Slides, make sure you check out turn on live captioning. And I would not say, they also have live translating. I cannot recommend that. That the translation is comical, but it does a good job capturing what I'm saying in English and turning it into text at the bottom, which helps our non-native speakers of doing this. Now, the good thing about this collaboration board is I can look back and see what people posted, because it saves all the student data from this. All right, so Tpr and vocabulary signaling. So one of the things I would say is, this is really tricky, because in my classroom, I give my kids a lot of vocabulary. I ask them to cut it up. I ask them to hold it up so I can see that they've got the right one. What I would say about this is, here's just a click the pairs option. It's not super great, but it's certainly, you know, it's something. It's not quite as interactive. I feel frustrated by it, because as a teacher, I'm sitting here and I'm maybe not interacting with the students as much. So that's definitely the frustrating part. However, you'll notice that the pairs that I did, it's more than just vocabulary. So I'm trying to push this matching pairs to be more comprehension, and I could do like 10 of them. If I did 10 statements with pictures, it would push the kids a little bit more to comprehend, if you know what I mean. So that would definitely, it's definitely an option. You could just do pure vocabulary, but honestly, you might just, I think it's better to do actual narrative sentences, because you're forcing them to click on meeting. You could also, it doesn't have to be pictures. You could do 2 text to 2 text, or 2 pictures to pictures, but so there's different options there. Almost, you'll see in the grid of tech that there are many tech options for this, not just Nearpod. Oh, and I just forgot. The one thing that is tricky is the drive option is really limited to Nearpod Live. Like, you can have them draw in OneNote and then look back at the OneNote, but it's sort of live, but not to the same extent that Nearpod is. Okay, the other thing is strategy 6 is gamification. There's lots of options for this. The idea, you guys see this already, because we all have used Kahoot. I've used Kahoot with adults, and it amps up the energy because it's live, because that Kahoot music is going on. It's like very engaging, and it just somehow, it's like designed to trigger the pleasure centers in the brain. And I know it may seem like kind of like low-hanging fruit, like, you know, why do we have to stoop to gamification? But the truth is, there's so many things competing for their attention. The more we can trigger stickiness to our class, if they want to come to our class, that may be the difference between them getting up and coming to class and not. Yeah, yes, thank you. Yeah, there is a difference between the collaboration and the polls. This strategy, which I don't know how much of you guys know this strategy, it's structured input. It comes from Dr. Bill Van Patten, and it's been pretty well studied. There's many different approaches to it. And it's basically a meaning-based approach to teaching problematic structures. It asks kids, the problem is like most problematic structures when they occur in nature have lots of other indicators. Like let's just take a verb. So in Spanish, a verb indicates when something happened. And the part that indicates that is the ending part, right? Same for Latin languages. And for some Asian language, for example, word order may be important. For some, you know, I know like in French, some words change if they're masculine or feminine. So there's all these problematic structures. And unfortunately, like all the stuff you find online for these are actually, they force kids to output them. They force kids to write the structures before they acquired them. And structured input does not ask them to output it. What structured input does is it takes away everything that kids could rely on except that structure to be able to identify the meaning. So let me give you an example. Sorry, went too fast, double clicking. So, okay, so I have a time to climb. What I would suggest, a time to climb is just another gamification of it. Okay, I'm going to start it, but the truth is that only Spanish teachers can take it. So I'm going to ask the Spanish teachers to take it while I explain what's going on. So basically, what's going on is okay, that's great. I see a bunch of Spanish teachers, and Lynn, oh, I think if that's my Lynn, she's also a Spanish teacher. Nice. Some of you have different avatars. So what you're going to see is a statement when I click start, when the players have settled out. So I've got 35 players. Great. All right, it's still going up. And so in this, you'll see that the only thing you can rely on for meaning is the ending of the verb or the verb form. And all you have to say, you're going to click is it's the present, the past, or the future. So you just read the sentence and you have to tell me when it occurred. Okay? So let's try it out so you see what I mean. So in this one, the only way they can tell when it happened is the fui, the word fui in there, and there's no other indication. All right, again, the only way they can tell when it's happening is the word boy. All right, again, there's only one word they can use to tell this. And I know when Gwen does this, sorry, I'm not doing as good a job as Gwen on this, but Gwen is like super encouraging with her kids. She's just like, way to go, you're so awesome. It's like, but in French, obviously, because she taught it, she teaches 100% in French, but, you know, encourage them as they go. All right, now this is a different type of question. This question is who is doing the going, right? So again, the only thing they can use to answer the question is the verb form, and they have to look carefully to see how it's ending. Because this is one that, according to my teachers, they confuse a lot, no matter how many years they've been in Spanish. All right, so we'll see, we will climb. All right, so we are getting close to the hour, and so I probably need to wrap up. I just need to say a few things here, is that when we're thinking about homework, some of the resilient pedagogy stuff I'm seeing online is, for instance, instead of the homework being about doing some kind of language drills, that it should be the kids getting to know each other. Another thing that I would say is that since the kids are kind of shy, creating long-term teams is another engagement strategy I've seen, meaning the kids are going to spend a whole semester in the team. Again, they get to know each other, and then they get a comfort level with them. And then the teacher can meet with just that small team at like tutorial. So that's another engagement strategy that would work in higher ed also. And then also working with kids in smaller groups, because we definitely saw the engagement go up with smaller groups. There's so much to say, and I know this is like super high level, and it was definitely fast paced, so I definitely apologize for that. As you choose the tech, you can look at the grid, but the one final advice that I'm going to give to you is, honestly, choose tech that you are comfortable with, because your self-care has to come first. And if flipping between Nearpod and all this stuff, you know, be kind to yourself, go easy. And then invite the kids to extend grace to you, because we're all in this together, and we're just going to have to be graceful about it. And I know that a lot of the teachers got a lot of feedback from the students. I would just like to thank you. I have a brief thank you to these three people specifically, but there are many other people that have helped me on my teaching journey. And many of you are on this call, and so I definitely want to extend thanks to you, but I want to specifically call out Caitlin, who's been our moderator today. Meitsu Changmendel, who she really pushed my thinking by asking a lot of questions and helping me tease through, you know, the best practices in this remote context. And Gwen, who very graciously invited me to my class, or to her class, so I got to participate as a student. And she's the one that really specifically opened up my view to what the possibilities were with Nearpod. So many thanks. And again, if we see that we need some follow-up, which we probably will, we can definitely talk about that. All right, so we're at the end of time. So what I would suggest is, how about we go to the survey? Caitlin, what do you think if we share the survey, and because there's like 2 surveys, unfortunately, and then we go to Q&A for the people who want to stay? How does that sound?
Sure. So, hi everyone. A couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and drop the exit ticket survey into the chat for everyone to fill out. This is feedback directly to Paris about her presentation, and she is the one that created the questions and would really, really appreciate that feedback. So that just dropped into the chat. It's the Menti link there. I also, again, want to thank you guys for coming, and a couple of things to note. Just for my education in doing these Zoom sessions, I am going to launch a poll because I want to see what the results look like. And we are working on our fall conference. So I do have a question that's going to pop up, just one single question. We're working on our fall virtual conference for WAFLT, and we are wondering which of the things that pops up on the screen in front of you are most excited about. So networking, informational webinars, interactive sessions, a chance to give or get input with OSPI, or virtual bling bags, which may include digital coupons for services and other exciting things that can be done virtually. So if you could take a minute to respond to that poll. If you're not seeing it, it might have slid between your windows when you were trying to go to the other survey. While you're doing that, I have a couple of announcements and notices. If you are one of the people that joined us late because you got the link out of a WeChat group, I think, thank you for joining us. However, you're not on our list to be able to give clock hours. So if you're interested in clock hours, you must be a member of WAFLT for this particular series, and you can view our remaining webinars and register for them in advance right there at the next link I just dropped into the chat. So again, we do have 3 more webinars in this series. They're open to everyone, so please register in advance with those links. And those of you that are members and that did pre-register, please keep an eye out on your email in the next couple of days. We have to go through the registration list and pull out those of you that are members and that did attend. I was taking attendance this whole time. And we will send you an email from the waffleboard@gmail.com account with a link to the clock hours evaluation. And once you complete that, it will automatically give you a link to download your clock hour form. So please keep an eye on your email for about the next week for those things. And if you don't see that come up in the next week, you're welcome to email us, waffleboard@gmail.com or CaitlinTomlinson@gmail.com. So if you have questions about your membership status, waffleboard@gmail.com is where you can ask and we can get back to you. We're working on that right now. So is that everything? Let me put your link to the Mentimeter in there one more time for you, Paris. So if you did not get a chance to give Paris some feedback, here is the opportunity. I know she is super self-reflective and would love to hear back. And thank you for participating in our poll.
Yes, we appreciate it. Were there any questions that anybody had that they want me to address at this time, or guidance, or that they need to interact with me on?
This is Blanca, and I could not tell if everything you used was within the Nearpod. I know that the gym kit was separate, but my question is, were most of the activities that you use with us were through Nearpod? Were they through Nearpod only?
Yeah, most of them were, and that was just because I had anxiety about switching between a bunch of tech. That was the only reason, Blanca. But from what I can tell, with kids it goes pretty slow, because you have to give them. I really raced through that. But yeah, most of those were like the drive. The one thing Nearbot has that I really like for comprehensible input is the drive format. Like a lot of them have many. If you look at the grid that I shared, I can put that link in again. It shows you what they can all do, and you'll see. I mean, the reason why we went with Nearpod versus other solutions, students don't have to have accounts, because when you have to get students rostered, it's always a pain. They just use the code or the link. Sometimes they just need the link. And then the other thing is, if your district decides to get it, we can create district and school libraries and share with each other. So as we're spinning up our curriculum to be remote, like I'm working on Spanish 2 curriculum, and so I can just create all these Nearpods and share them with all my Spanish 2 teachers. And I can also share them externally just very easily. So that's why we went with Nearpod, but it's not the only solution by far.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Blanca. Thank you. Other questions?
Feel free to-
I have a question for you. Would you mind if if you remember to share that presentation that you attended this week about going from reading to writing.
Yes, yes, yeah, it's a great presentation. There's so many, just so many at the National Foreign Language Summit, and they have 5,000 people signed up. I'm presenting on a different topic tomorrow there, but yeah, let me see if I can look it up.
Thank you.
Right now.
Paris, I have a question. Hi, this is Megan.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, bonjour. I was wondering on strategy 2, when you did personal stories, and then you had the picture that you had already downloaded and then they had to add to it. I really like that. But I'm wondering, was that the whiteboard feature or was that a different feature?
No, that was the whiteboard, the Drive.
Okay.
It's called Draw It in
It's called Drive?
Draw It.
Draw It. Great.
Yeah.
And there's the same one that was strategy 3 whiteboards, but that one was more like if we're writing or something maybe, or drawing. Yeah. Okay, cool. And then can you like just briefly tell me how you go about taking someone's photograph and putting them on their head on something else, or is that like a really hard thing to do?
So what, okay, that's a really good question. It definitely wasn't apparent from the presentation.
Okay.
Basically, I did the presentation in PowerPoint, okay? And in PowerPoint, so Anita, Dr. Anita Demjanovic, which I think she's probably off because she has a job interview in a few seconds. But anyway, I knew Anita was going to attend. So in your class, you know your kids, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just clipped it off the web. But with my students, I went into the student data system and their photos are in my student data system.
Right.
And then I just do like if it's Windows, I just do I think it's called snip and clip. Or snip and, let me see what it's called in Windows, snip something. And then PowerPoint has this tool called remove background. So I just put it into PowerPoint, and let me see if I can quickly, it's it's kind of a weird feature of PowerPoint a lot of people don't know about, but then you can just quickly remove the background. And you know what? The truth is that it can look really kind of rough, and it's fine. Kids don't care. They loved it.
Yeah, but it was really cool. Like it's the kind of thing that would really draw them in, and I don't have that ability to make that. So if it's easy, I would love to learn.
Yeah, it's super easy. I put the link in from the Microsoft description of how you do that in PowerPoint.
Great, thank you. And
then you might, because Draw It requires you to upload a image file. You might have to, you can in PowerPoint save as an image and just save that screen. So yeah, so I would say the PowerPoint is definitely the easiest way to do that. Or Word has, I think, does Word have, well, PowerPoint, I know PowerPoint works, so.
Okay, so you basically did the image in PowerPoint and then you snipped it and put it into the Nearpod. Great.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, so yeah.
Great.
Not fancy. It's not, I mean, like Nearpod doesn't have any animation, but because you're basically, if you're doing a PowerPoint, you can save your PowerPoint as a PDF and then upload the PDF to Nearpod, and then they just all come in. And then you just have to add your interactivity between the slides.
So you can do like the whole presentation on PowerPoint and then download the whole thing into Nearpod. Right.
It's just the interactivity has to go between your PowerPoint slides, because your PowerPoint slide is just basically an image.
Okay. So
but
then after you import it, then you can like push things apart and put little activities in?
Exactly. That's a very good way to describe it. And the other, because I don't know about you, but like I have 8 terabytes of PowerPoints because I'm so old, you know. So I want to just upload my PowerPoints and then.
Right. If it's already there. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. That's very helpful. And I know how to use PowerPoint already, so that's easier too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah. Anything else? Or I know people are shy on Zoom.
I do have a question.
Yes.
And maybe you answered that at the beginning and I just didn't pick up on it. But when I'm thinking about trying to use this platform that seems really, it seems attractive for me for asynchronous learning environments. And the first feature that I picked up on was obviously that you are able to pace the students as you guide them through the lesson that you provided with Nearpod. And are you able to also set up the lesson so the students are able to click through it at their own pace as they work through it by themselves?
You know what? That is an excellent question, and I realized I didn't really talk about that, and it's a superb question because that's like the main reason that we went with Nearpod.
Okay.
Let me show you. So when I've done a Nearpod, when I hover over it, you see my screen now, I hope,
yeah.
Right? So if you look, I have two options, live lesson and student paced.
Okay.
Okay, so you can, because students, if I click on the student pace code, the student goes through, sees the slides, interacts the same way they would in a live lesson, and you can then later go back and see what happened with it. Does that make sense? You can see.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. What we did in my district over the course of the years, we used Google Slides and live instruction, and looking forward to the fall and thinking about how it will probably be a hybrid. I think that Nearpod is a great tool to do what you just suggested. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason it drew us to it, because we don't want to be redesigning the same stuff in two different formats.
Yeah, exactly.
And my lead teachers, we've actually been talking about using the Nearpod like you would a PowerPoint to present live, but not having the kids in the room. Like we have half the kids in the room, not having the kids in the room actually do the Nearpod. They would have old school vocabulary and old school whiteboards. Okay. So you would have, especially if half of them are remote, and or for equity reasons, we have to have a student paced like asynchronous choice, right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Perez.
Yeah, thanks for that question, because I definitely did not make that clear in the presentation. Other questions? I'm not able to find the session that I watched yesterday. So if you want the session on from reading to writing, just email me. And then when I have a chance to curate it, I will. So I can just send you the link.
Perez?
Yes.
This is Teresita, and I was just going to tell you that people can go to YouTube and they can access it there too, because YouTube has the links for a lot of the presentations that have been going on at that conference.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome, Teresita. Thanks.